At the time of making this video, January 2025, the Oasis reunion tour has not yet begun. But when they released the tickets for the North American leg, they put out this message: America, Oasis is coming. You have one last chance to prove that you loved us all along. It was the only tour announcement to come with a kind of bittersweet message like that. So today, I wanted to look at Oasis in their 90s heyday in America, and to try and get some idea of why, when they were global legends of rock and roll elsewhere, they never truly broke the USA. As we dig into this chapter of the band's history, however, I just want to say right from the start, this is coming from the perspective of an Oasis megafan. Absolutely none of this is me slagging off the band. It's looking back over a rocky part of their history and analysing it honestly and going, what went wrong? Their first gig in America was on July the 21st, 1994 at the confusingly titled Wetlands Preserve, which is not actually a field with ducks in it, but an old venue in New York. Here's a clip from that show where, before finishing the first song of the first gig in that country, Liam flips off a member of the audience. A sign of things to come, perhaps.
You just remember, mate, halfway through the gig, you're only 4 people away from me. It's a good job I'm in a good mood, guy kid.
Yeah. Telling you, probably English and all, aren't you?
Because I'll fucking be in there, mate.
Whereabouts in Liverpool are you from?
But the thing that really stands out about that gig, strangely enough, is not the music. It's the long, spiralling silences. Liam said, "We went over there behaving the way we were behaving in England, and it just didn't happen. They want to be told how great they are. Are you having a good time? Clap your hands together. I'm not into any of that nonsense. I never felt the pressure to move or get a little dance routine together or anything like that, or speak to the crowd, or even acknowledge the crowd. Are they here to hear us talk about our day? It's not a comedy show, and we are not up there for a laugh. We are up there to sing and play music. I ain't saying all." They were confused when there would be no chatting or banter in between the songs. It would just go silent. Sometimes people get awkward around silences, where I thrive on it. And so, there, in the very first Oasis gig in America, you can see just a little glimpse of the clash of cultures that I reckon played a part in sabotaging their chances in the States. Liam and Noel's defiant English working class upbringing didn't translate very well. In the UK, their behaviour was actually fairly relatable. It was just a bit rebellious and a sign of having a little bit of fire in their bellies. In America, it kind of mistranslated into something else. And just to illustrate that kind of mismatch of cultures, here's a few excerpts from a really revealing interview the band did on that first tour in the States.
I just want to give you a brief background on the band Oasis. First of all, we get their press pack or whatever it's called, and every article says how they are the next Beatles. They're going to be bigger than the Beatles. They are better than the Rolling Stones. They're better than this band. They're better than that band. They're so cool. They trash their hotel rooms. So obviously they're trying to create some sort of image to present to America, which is, let me tell you, quite impressive. Obviously they want us to print this or to say something about it. So here we are, we're saying something about it just to show you what a bunch of losers this band actually is.
But there you can see, while in the UK they kind of went down as lovable rogues, in America the mistranslation was so bad that it actually made people start judging them very early on.
If an American band named Oasis sued you, would you change your name to Oasis UK or the Manchester Oasis? No. What would you do?
You just keep it as Oasis and beat them up.
Oh, okay. That would probably work.
Oh yeah. Better violence always works a little better.
Uh-huh. Are you guys sure that you want to be the next Beatles, or would you rather be the next Duran Duran?
Oh yeah, I'd rather be the next Challenge Duran.
Mad to losing it, maybe. So, nah. We're gonna be Oasis, you know what I mean? We're gonna be the biggest band since the Beatles. And that is it.
Oh, that is it.
But of course, always complicating matters was the fact that they were actually sometimes intentionally kicking the hornet's nest, causing trouble on purpose. Here's what apparently happened right after that first gig in New York. America, they'd watched it unfurl on TV screens all their lives. Now they would see it for themselves. Manager Marcus Russell says, "I remember sitting them down and saying, America is going to be hard work. It's nothing like Britain." Liam says, "I'd gone in to do some interviews in a Sony music building, and this guy was sat there throwing this American football up in the air, and he goes, 'Are you the guy from Oasis? You must think yourself really lucky to be in the position you're in.' 'Why is that then?' asked Liam. 'Being signed to Sony Music,' he replied. And Liam responded, 'You're lucky you've got a band like us on your label, some big who doesn't even know who you are and doesn't care, telling you how lucky you are to be on his label. Off. You're lucky to have us. You're lucky there's a band like us that give a Now put your cigar down, put my beer down, and get the out of my room, fatty.'" The next night, Liam had a similar to-do with an influential MTV executive who poured scorn on British bands who came over thinking that they could crack America. And of course, Liam flipped. This MTV guy is saying to him, "You've got no chance," and this guy just kept on about how they've already got their own music, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, and in the end, Liam lost his rag, saying to him, "Me and you, outside." It was the talk of the industry the next day, says Marcus, and I was approached by a couple of promotion people who said, "I think you should have dinner with this guy to smooth it over." But I said, "I'm proud of this guy and I'm not embarrassed by it. I would have been cheering from the touchlines if I was there." And that's where Liam's quote about Kurt Cobain being a sad came from. Marcus pauses, and that's why the guy's wife burst into tears. She had been a friend of Kurt Cobain. And so, on their first gig in the States, Oasis had not held back in any way whatsoever. They had made some friends, but also quite a lot of skeptics, and they'd carried with them their trademark carnage. Next came the main body of the Definitely Maybe tour in America, the fifth gig of which was their infamous Whiskey A Go-Go show in Hollywood. In the audience at the Whiskey gig was a group of high-powered, influential American record execs. And if Oasis impressed them, this gig had the potential to result in some really major exposure and promotion, potentially launching them in America. However, seemingly only Noel took the opportunity seriously, while the rest of the band and the crew got completely out of their faces on the newly discovered crystal meth. Most of them apparently had been up for 36 hours by the time of the gig. And as a result, the set lists were all different thanks to a crew member who was high as a kite. The opening song, Rock and Roll Star, crashed and burned, and they all ended up having to start again just a few minutes in as Griggsy lost his place and was hammering out the wrong bass line. You can imagine the anger and embarrassment Noel must have felt as the band crashed and burned on the first song at a gig where all the music industry bigwigs were looking on. Apparently, they thoroughly blew their chances with the record company guys, and at the end of the show, Liam hit Noel with his tambourine just to ice the cake. Enraged at the band, and Liam in particular, Noel left without telling anybody where he was going, and that resulted in the band having to cancel the next 9 gigs in America. And so, on their first tour in the States, the one where they were meant to win over the record labels, at this point, they had cancelled more shows than they'd actually played. If you'd like more detail on this story, go watch the Oasis Supersonic documentary, or, if you're feeling like something a bit more trippy, my video on the Masterplan conspiracy. Oasis cancelling gigs would go on to be a regular occurrence all around the world, but for some reason it happened a lot in the States. When the Beatles and many of the British invasion bands in the 60s and the early 70s did break America, they kind of embraced America. They loved the place, partly because of the culture they were a part of at home. Oasis never really did embrace the American world. Noel says, "There's a lot of shit you have to do in America. For instance, on that trip, me and Liam got taken off to a recording studio and given a sheet of paper with all these one-liners for radio stations. So there's me and Liam round one mic going, "Hey, this is Noel and Liam from Oasis and you're listening to WX9 blah blah blah, the only place to listen to modern rock in the whole of the universe." I think we might have lasted to about the third one before we were like, nope, this is not going to happen. And that kind of thing set the tone for our relationship with Epic Records in America. They had been due to go back to the States in October of 1995 to promote their new album, What's the Story Morning Glory. But those plans were sabotaged on September the 13th, when bass player Guigsy left the band due to nervous exhaustion. But the band still had live commitments, so they recruited and trained a new bass player, Scott McLeod, and then returned to the States to do the tour on October the 10th. But, as always, the American dates just seemed cursed because a few days later, Scott McLeod also bailed. Compared to previous excursions, this was just a short US tour. Earl's Court was looming and nobody wanted an exhausted Oasis taking the stage. The band would also slot in a crucial TV appearance in New York on the massively popular David Letterman show. The show was televised from the Ed Sullivan Theatre, the exact venue and stage on which the Beatles had conquered America in February 1964, with a performance containing just 5 songs. However, after the Pittsburgh show, tour manager Maggie was sitting by herself on the coach when Scott McLeod, the temporary bassist, sat down beside her. "I want to go home," he stated, which is what he did. While the band slept, he demanded that Maggie get him a flight to Manchester. He flew out the next day with 4 gigs to go. When they woke up, Oasis was stunned to find yet another band member had flown the coop. What is it about bass players in this band, Noel wondered. One minute this guy is signing on, then suddenly he's in the biggest band in Britain, getting a decent wedge, and he pisses off. Now, the officially released reason for why Scott left Oasis is that he was missing his girlfriend. But, according to a mate of mine, a reliable but anonymous source close to the band, there was actually a different reason. Scott was apparently a heavy pot smoker, and it had made him paranoid. And, in the States, he apparently believed he was being tailed and followed everywhere by the FBI. And later, long after leaving Oasis, he would then go on to see, on the crime show America's Most Wanted, the police hunt for this man, Scott Lee Kimball, a serial killer who was involved with, and would marry into, a family called the McLeods. And this serial killer, who allegedly also went by the alias Scott McLeod, would pretend to be a member of the FBI. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know if this is just the mother of all coincidences or if this lines up. The biggest area in which it doesn't line up is the dates. Scott McLeod was in America in the mid-90s and, according to Wikipedia at least, all of this was going on in the years after. But if you ever wondered why on earth anyone in their right mind would leave the biggest band in the world while on tour in the USA after just releasing Morning Glory and Wonderwall, this explanation at least makes just a little more sense than "I'm missing my bird." Oasis were due to perform on David Letterman on the 19th, but not having the time to get anyone else in on bass, Bonehead went over to play bass instead, and they did the show as a 4-piece. But they couldn't do the entire remaining tour that way, and it didn't sound quite right. And so, with no time to train a new musician to learn and memorise the entire set list, they had to cancel gigs in Buffalo, Columbus, Chicago and Royal Oak. Thankfully, however, Guigsy returned to the band in time for the Earl's Court show, and so their touring position from that point forward was a little bit less precarious. In Minneapolis in '95, the band were photographed for the prestigious cover shot of Rolling Stone magazine. Noel and Liam attending a separate session the next day, but they both walked out after just an hour. They were bored, and as they told the protesting photographer, "Rolling Stone needs us more than we need them." Noel admits, "We struggled over there because of our personalities. I'll turn up for interviews and all that, but I am not spending 8 hours on a photo shoot for Rolling Stone. They can kiss my arse." In the end, we smashed the arse out of it in America. For a brief period, we were selling more albums in the States than we were in England. It was only 6 months, but we were the biggest band in the world. Morning Glory was now nestling in America's top 10, The only British group to achieve that status in 1995 was the Beatles, and Wonderwall had entered the singles charts at 21. The hard work was finally paying off. But the flip side of that coin is, sometimes, particularly in the States, they would come across a little bit like they were disrespecting American music. Here's Noel in an interview that I think is in 1995, and in it you can hear him basically taking the piss out of Americans a little bit by singing a bunch of stupid songs in a kind of redneck accent.
Are you feeling chipper today?
I'm a chipper son of a bitch. 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 And I never get an itch when I'm a chipper son of a bitch. I'm a chipper son of a bitch. I'm feeling alright actually.
Okay,
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling alright.
All right, we're getting out of here.
Say goodbye, cold world. Say I'm leaving you today. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. I said goodbye, all you people. There's nothing that you can say to make me change my mind. Goodbye.
Yes!
Are there places in this country that you just as soon not travel to?
Yes. And places where... Got any barbers where you come from, boy? You boys like country music?
Part of the problem, I think, was that Oasis didn't embrace American culture in the same way bands like U2 or Coldplay did. A huge part of the Britpop indie rock revolution in the UK was actually a rejection of the American culture that had been consistently imported by the media. They didn't like it, this strange land with neon lights and funny ways. America threw them. There was an underlying falseness everywhere. People flew American flags in their back garden and said things like, "Now have a nice day," as if they meant it. Then there were the others, like the record company people, who would come up and say, "Hi there, Loam, where's your brother Niall?" In their hotel rooms, they would switch on the TV, and just as they were getting into some dumb cop show, it would suddenly switch to these really stupid false adverts that treated the viewer like he was some kind of idiot. It would annoy them so much, they'd change the channel only to find a religious nutter talking about God and asking for millions. Liam said, "I went over there with a chip on my shoulder, but a good chip. It was like, look, we are going to have you and we're going to do it our way, the same as in England. You won't be moulding us to be one of your own." I wasn't bothered whether we made it in the States. Obviously, we would give it a good crack, but it would have to be on our terms. My main thing was to make an album and be great where I lived, to be the best band in my country. In America it was, if it happens, it happens. I knew we were the best band in the world, regardless of whether they did or not. The Morning Glory tour continued into 1996, when, on February the 29th, a gig in Milwaukee was cancelled, and then, on April the 10th, they played a gig over the border in Canada, where they got pelted with shoes and coins, so after a few songs, they just left.
Time comes up here and you're letting your asses out this door, alright?
Listen, mate, come and play your fucking music, mate. I'm not having coins going blind for a dickhead. I'm fucking boots and that. You're all going home if you fucking say
The next one, you're fucking going home early. And we mean it, man.
Because we're from England and we are ours. We're not soft. Nobody could have it. I'll slap your fucking balls, mate. Good night, see you again sometime when you're going to keep your fucking shoes on. Don't need it, you know what I mean? Come and play your fucking songs, don't need shoes thrown at us, right? We're not fucking monkeys, we're fucking best band in the fucking world.
4 days later, gigs were also cancelled in LA and in Phoenix, because Noel wasn't feeling well. On the 27th of August, the band arrived at Heathrow Airport to set out once more for a 3-week American tour. 10 minutes before they were due to fly, however, Liam suddenly ordered his bags to be taken off the plane, and, as the band took off without him, he explained to reporters that he needed to sort out his housing arrangements, and then headed back home to St John's Wood. As reporters and TV cameras waited outside Patsy's house, The band began their US tour in Chicago, Noel handling the vocals.
Their tour of America got off to a disastrous start when Liam decided at the last minute to stay at home in London. Intense media interest in the reason why he hadn't gone met with a routine Oasis response.
Hello, is Mr. Gallagher there, please? Who's it? Is that Liam?
Yeah.
Hello, Liam, it's Jeremy Vine from Newsnight here. How are you doing?
I'm sound, how are you?
Not bad, are you coming out?
It's raining, mate.
Why aren't you going to Chicago? Hello, Liam.
But thousands of fans are upset by what you did.
Well, so I was upset. That was it. I'm upset the way the tour gets wrote and that. You got to go here, you got to go there. I had to find an house. Simple as that. I can't come to America and go back to England and have nowhere to live. I'm sorry. I come first. I come first.
You come before your fans do. You make
of course I do. That's me. Yeah.
You have a concert.
I come first. I don't care. I forgot about it. I didn't know. No one sorted my house out. I come first before any. And that's my attitude, alright?
Do you deserve any fans at all? Do you deserve
fans?
Of
course I do.
How do you justify that?
Because that's the way it is, isn't it? They know what I like.
In September 1996, the band were in New York for the MTV Live Music Awards, and there, another point of tension between Oasis and the American press, who they needed, became apparent. Americans struggled to understand their thick Manc accents, and frankly people from Manchester did as well, but the band did not like being subtitled.
Why didn't you subtitle our last thing on MTV? Couldn't you understand the word we were saying?
You know what? This is the subtitles question again.
I thought we were speaking quite loud and clear, actually.
No, it is loud and clear. See, I'm understanding every word right now.
Liam said, "I had a feeling they'd never take to us. I just wanted to go home, to be fair. Can we just go back to England where we are massive and everything is great? People get us and we don't need subtitles, and people call me Liam instead of Leighton. I am quite happy with that." However, they were an absolute nightmare to understand sometimes and did need subtitles. Just listen to how Liam introduced Champagne Supernova at that same awards show to an American audience.
Hope you have a great time, and you know you're having a time, you're not too scared to say it, old mate.
Most Brits couldn't understand what Liam was saying when he gabbled at 90 miles an hour into the mic like that. The crunch came in Buffalo when, hours before the show, Noel and Liam exchanged punches, cancelled the gig, and then returned to their hotel for a serious talk. On September the 11th, a gig in Charlotte was cancelled due to low ticket sales. And the very next day after that cancelled gig, Noel Gallagher flew home to England, abandoning the tour and giving no explanation to the press.
Head down, saying nothing, Noel Gallagher returned home. With 4 concerts still to play, he's left fans in America disappointed and followers here confused. His record company will only say Oasis have hit internal differences on their 9th tour of America, which has been pulled 2/3 of the way through.
Then, in November, they also cancelled the last 2 dates on the tour, in LA and Hawaii. They decided they'd had enough, they wanted to go home and start work on the new album, Be Here Now. After all the chaos of the Definitely Maybe tour and the Morning Glory tour, the band released Be Here Now, which was their biggest hit in America, going into the charts at number 2. The Be Here Now tour opened with only 3 US dates in June of '97, a further very quick 3 dates in October, and then a month-long stretch in January to early February '98. When Be Here Now hit number 2 in the States, that kind of was their moment, but they didn't really capitalise on that chart exposure and ride the wave and get straight out there to keep the momentum going. They didn't go back until many months later, in January. However big and hard they thought they were, America had a history of breaking Oasis. In 2. Twice now, Noel had bailed out and caught lonely planes back to London, exasperated and furious at Liam's behaviour. The fevered publicity surrounding these walkouts always made Oasis seem ready to snap for good. Certainly that was the American conception of the band. 2 childish brothers squabbling with an army of good songs behind them, but an attitude that badly needed sorting out. This next jaunt was them saying, "Let's see what mess we left behind last time we were here, and is there anything we can do about it?" Noel summed it up this way: America, they couldn't handle the fact that we didn't give a about anything. I think that's the reason we never had a #1 album in America. They wouldn't go the extra mile for us because we wouldn't go the extra mile for them. Noel says, I've never been one that actually gave a shit about what the audience felt. I've done plenty of gigs where you're looking out at the audience and thinking, I wonder if they're getting it, particularly in America where they're just blankly looking at you. The Be Here Now tour concluded after, again, gigs in January and February in 1998. There was no American tour in 1999, and so ended Oasis's tours in the States in the 90s. And the funny thing is, when you look at how many gigs they did in the States in the 90s compared to how many got cancelled, they really didn't cancel that many. But because they did cancel a lot more than most bands typically would, they started to get a reputation in the UK press for always cancelling when they went to America. But also, when you watch a video like this just highlighting everything that went wrong, it can be very easy to get the wrong end of the stick. It can be very easy to just look at the whole enterprise as one long disaster from start to finish. But it wasn't. Oasis actually achieved loads in America. And, over time, especially since their 2009 split, their reputation over there has actually only grown. Helped, I think, largely by their absolute top-rank superstar status around the rest of the world. Thanks to the internet, awareness of their standing elsewhere has kind of been able to seep into the American musical consciousness and has raised their standing there as well. But we're not quite finished with America yet, because I've got a really interesting little Oasis Easter egg for the American fans. There's a Liam Gallagher solo song called One of Us, which is clearly written about his brother Noel. Hey kid, did you know, today 16 years ago, it was you and I for the last time. You angrily said, with a smoke ring round your heads, you would see me on the other side. Act like you don't remember. You said we'd live forever. Who do you think you're kidding? You were only one of us. I always found this song really confusing, because if you read through the lyrics, it seems so obviously to be about the ending of Oasis in August 2009. It seems clearly to have been written about Noel. But the problem is, in that opening line he says, 16 years ago today. That's a time which was way in the future when the song was released, and is still in the future at the time of making this video. And then, the video only confirms he's talking about Noel and the ending of Oasis, because we see historical family pictures from the Gallaghers, and then we see this date etched on a door, 28th of the 8th, 2009, the day Oasis split. When this song was released, we hadn't actually hit the date that he references in the lyrics, 16 years ago today. That date is the 28th of August 2025, and guess what's scheduled for that date? The Oasis reunion show in Chicago. Now, of course, this could just be Liam winding everybody up. He does it all the time. It could mean absolutely nothing whatsoever. It could have been included just to get fans like me talking about it. But if there is something planned for that date, if you're an American fan and you have one of the tickets to that show, keep your eyes open. Because this time round, it's possible they might actually be going out of their way to do something special and unique for you guys over in the States. And if they do, please let me know about it. If you would like to see the full extended cut of this documentary, you can do so on my Patreon. And a massive thank you to all my current Patreons for their kind and generous support in making these videos and running this channel. And thanks to you for watching. If you've got any memories of Oasis in the States that you'd like to share, please let me know in the comments. Also, just let me know your thoughts. And as always, I'll see you next time.